Hey everyone, Casual Console Gamer here with another review. Dragon Age the Veilguard was released in October of 2024 for Windows through Steam, the Xbox Series X, and the PlayStation 5. I played it in April of 2025 on the PlayStation 5 console, where it was recently given away for free through the PlayStation Plus subscription service. It currently retails for $60 but does frequently go on sale, most recently for 50% off. So, is Dragon Age the Veilguard worth playing in 2025? This review is going to answer that question.
Let's try this again. Where's Nev Gallus?
You think you can come into my bar and make demands?
Alright, let's start the review off by saying Dragon Age the Veilguard is a fine video game. It's not fine as in like fantastic, but fine in that it's just fine. It's alright. It's okay. It's a 6.5 or 7 out of 10 video game. It's one of those games that you pick up and play, have a good time with, then instantly forget about it. The problems with the Veilguard isn't about the game itself, it's all the behind-the-scenes production stuff. It's the fact that it's carrying on the legacy of the Dragon Age franchise and honestly the fate of BioWare as a studio. BioWare came out with 2 flops previous to this one, Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem. Both did make the studio some money, but were a disappointment to fans. It was generally agreed upon that the Veilguard was one of those final chances for the studio. It was like a last opportunity for it to prove to the fans that they still had that BioWare magic. Which means there's a lot of pressure and hype on Dragon Age the Veilguard to be something fantastic. Possibly even an unreasonable amount of expectations. What made things worse is that this wasn't a new IP, this was a Dragon Age game. It had a lot to live up to. The biggest problem with making a fantastic game and having your entire studio's financial future tied to it means you aren't willing to take risks. And that's why Dragon Age the Veilguard is just an alright video game. It's the color beige of video games. It's oatmeal at breakfast. It's a PG movie from a franchise that was always a hard R. Dragon Age the Veilguard is designed to reach as many people as possible, without excluding an audience member based on gender or age. What I mean by that is, there's no reason that the Veilguard should be rated 18. I personally would mark this one at PG or just teen. So when it comes to the question of, is the Veilguard worth playing? As a video game, yes, it is worth it. But as a Dragon Age game, is it good? Or is it as good as a classic BioWare game? That answer is much more complicated.
Appreciate it. Rook, this is Nev Gallus, our local expert. She's gonna help us find Solus. Nev, meet Rook. Harding and I found him a while back. Thought we could use an expert on trouble.
Rook, like a chess piece?
One of the strongest pieces on the board, but he tends to think in straight lines.
We'll start the review, as we always do, with the technicals. Dragon Age the Veilguard runs really well on console. There is a performance mode and a quality mode, which I switch back and forth on, and the quality difference isn't that much. Play it in performance mode for the better FPS, since you aren't missing that much in the quality mode. I didn't have any bugs, glitches, or any other problems. The Veilguard is a pretty polished product, with reasonable load times and an easy-to-read and functional UI. Graphically, Veilguard looks good, but it's an artistic departure from previous entries in the series. A lot of people have talked about the character models and how they don't match the gritty, dark fantasy world that Dragon Age was set in. And honestly, I do agree. Everyone looks very handsome or pretty, with perfect features, and there isn't a hint of dirt in sight. There isn't a lot of emoting going on here either, which makes it similar to Andromeda or Anthem, but it isn't that bad. Again, if this wasn't a BioWare Dragon Age game, if this was, say, generic Dungeons & Dragons The Veilguard brought to you by an unknown studio, it wouldn't be as big of a deal as it's made out to be. You would accept that this is like a D&D campaign with classic heroes and heroines, untouched by dirt and blood as they fight against evil. But it just doesn't look what you would expect out of a Dragon Age game. Again, the Veilguard is not bad, it's just different. The environments, however, are really well done. The art styles of the towns and the dungeons, everything is really good here. The enemies, especially the Darkspawn, are still unsettling, but they are less blighted than I remember and much more cartoony. It's a deliberate artistic choice, but I think they should have stayed more true to the original designs rather than going in this new direction, since fans of Dragon Age are probably going to find this difference jarring. Also, there isn't any nudity in the Veilguard. There is some in the character generator if you deliberately choose to take your character's top off, but there's like nothing in the world or in the cutscenes or anything like that. Which goes back to the rating again. I'm not entirely sure why this is rated 18. It would make more sense for it to be teen for blood and violence, but everything here is very tamed, especially when you compare it to other games I've played.
Eyes up! We've got company!
Okay, let's dive into the story of the Veilguard without getting too much into spoilers. For anyone who plays Dungeons & Dragons, Veilguard feels like you came into the campaign mid-session when everyone was already done with their introductions and set up the story. It's like you missed meeting your companions or why you need to fight the bad guy. Instead, you start the game right when stuff hits the fan. On one side, it's a good idea to start the game off at the good stuff. A lot of players don't enjoy hours of story, dialogue, and exposition before getting to that good part. But on the other side, I was completely lost on what the hell was happening and who everyone is. I've played the Dragon Age games, even Inquisition, but that was years ago when it was first released. So I would say I have a general concept of the world and what's going on here, but not the specifics. The game starts with you making your character, which is always nicknamed Rook. Why are they called Rook? That has something to do with it being the strongest piece in chess or something like that. It's an off comment made by one of the characters. You have to stop a character named Solus from breaking the Veil, which is a magical barrier preventing the Fade from entering the real world and messing everything up. If you've played Inquisition, a lot of the characters make a return here. But if you played Inquisition years ago, like I did, and have forgotten most of it, there isn't a recap or a codex or library explaining the world and the characters. Everything is very bare-boned, and it only gives you explanations for terms instead of the characters until you go through and pick up items that fleshes it out a bit. So obviously, things in the story go sideways, and the rest of the game is spent trying to prevent the end of the world. As I've said, the story feels like you entered at the end of Act 1 of a 3-act story instead of at the beginning. You've missed most of the explanations of what's going on and who these people are. Imagine if Lord of the Rings began just after the characters left Rivendell and the Council of Elrond. But don't worry, the game takes plenty of opportunities to stop the action dead in its tracks when you're in your home base, having everyone just sit down in the living room and talk about what just happened and what they need to do next. Those world-ending stakes that has everyone pushing forward, they're conveniently absent during these sections. The story isn't bad, there are some memorable characters, but the game does suffer from the Marvel quip problem. Jokes are inappropriate at times, there's characters being dumb for humorous reasons, and magical nonsense words are pulled together to solve a problem in a nonsensical way. If you've seen a Marvel movie, you know what I mean. Your character is amongst the worst for this. Dragon Age games, and BioWare in general, used to be well known for their great characters and dialogue choices that were very meaningful. You could be good or evil, insane, flirty, that kind of thing. Some were subtle, and some you could just punch someone in the face with. The Veilguard has dialogue choices, and they boil down to a couple different options. Understanding and kind dialogue, jokey and humorous responses, and then the tough guy act. There isn't a good or evil, there's just versions of different emotions that all lead to the same basic outcome. Don't expect your selections to make any real difference here, aside from having your companions approve or disapprove of your actions and words. To help you with the dialogue, these responses are clearly marked so you won't accidentally become snarky when you want to act tough. All the nuance of conversations, all that character building from, say, Mass Effect, that's absent here. You want to romance someone? Don't worry about picking the right series of options, just choose the heart option every time. Like every RPG, your companions do give you side quests that improve your understanding of them, and some of the side characters do get pretty fleshed out. But I found the game never gave me that time to get to know them. Again, it feels like parts were cut out of this game. It took me about 30 hours to beat it, and more if you want to do the side quests. But I think Dragon Age the Veilguard suffers from streamlining the story too much in some aspects, and having too much filler in others.
What do you...
So that's the Nardis to Tharlan.
It was, or is, I mean. Crystal's broken though, needs fixing. It's kinda my thing, fixing magical stuff.
Gameplay-wise, the Veilguard is really simple. You pick your character class from fighter, mage, or rogue, with each specializing further as you level them up. So what type of mage you are starts as using a staff or an orb to use magic, but as you level up, you may pick skills that make you a close-range spell sword or use energy-draining damage. But combat in general is mostly spamming the attack button and waiting for your abilities to go off cooldown or for your mana to recharge so you can use them again. Your two companions can also use abilities, and they sometimes combo for added damage. You can also dodge and block attacks. It's the most streamlined combat I've seen in quite a while, and you won't have any problems plowing your way through the campaign even if you don't optimize your skill loadout and equipment. The Veilguard is a straight-up action game, with some RPG elements in skills and equipment. Its difficulty doesn't come from enemies doing a lot of damage or requiring precise timing and movements. No, it comes from the form of damage sponges. Enemies here have multiple health bars, and some of the bosses can take a real beating even with an optimized build. But more than that, regular enemies can be a slog at times, especially when they come in multiple waves. Honestly, I didn't enjoy Veilguard's combat. Once you played it for a few hours, it doesn't really change or get more in depth. It just becomes repetitive and boring. It's Inquisition's combat just made even more streamlined. So if you didn't enjoy that game, then you might not like this one either. Aside from the combat, there is the dialogue, which we've already covered in the story section. Aside from combat, dialogue, there's exploration. Veilguard's exploration has a few hidden nooks and crannies to discover in the levels, but most of its areas are pretty linear with a right path to take and very few open areas. While you're exploring, you'll pick up equipment, potions, and other items if you choose to explore and solve the occasional puzzle, but if you don't want to do that, you're not going to really suffer for it. The RPG elements have skill points to spend on specializing your class for bonuses, equipment that is partial stat and partial cosmetic, and abilities that you can upgrade and use your skill points for. Overall, the gameplay in Veilguard is a mixed bag. It doesn't do anything exceptionally well, but it's also not terrible in general. I found it to be serviceable.
Varric brought us together because of our strengths. He wanted a team he could rely on. We have to be that team.
Play to our strengths.
And rely on each other.
I think I can manage that.
Then let's find Solus's dagger. It'll be a start.
Alright, let's go into the pros and cons of Dragon Age: The Veilguard. For the pros, the game's environments look really nice even on console on performance mode. The voice acting is pretty good, although some of the dialogue can be very cringy. It runs really well on console, and I didn't have any glitches, bugs, or technical issues. It was recently given away for free on PlayStation Plus, which is where I picked it up. For the cons, the story assumes you know the Dragon Age lore and the story from Inquisition. It starts very abruptly and feels like the first half of Act 1 was chopped away. Some of the artistic choices for characters and enemies are a departure from previous Dragon Age games and is an odd choice for the game's age rating of 18+. For a game with an age rating of 18+, it's very tame. Don't expect Witcher 3 levels of nudity or gore. The gameplay may be too simple and easy for some players, and the difficulty comes from damage sponge enemies. And that's it for another review. Thanks for watching the video, and if you're enjoying the content, please consider leaving a like or a comment or subscribing to the channel. So, the big question is Dragon Age Veilguard worth playing? It sure is if you got it for free or deeply on sale. For fans of Dragon Age, though, it's a big departure from previous entries, and it probably would have worked better as its own IP. EA and BioWare probably knew that since they just gave it away for free after only a few months after its release, which is never a very good sign for a video game. I'm the Casual Console Gamer on YouTube, and I'll see you all in the next review.